Statistical analysis is commonly conducted on very large samples to assess the likely variance in results over the entire lot. The statistical analysis of the samples can forecast the proportion of the total lot that will fall within a certain range of values pretty precisely. A large number of measurements will yield a distribution of readings with the highest number of values about equal to the actual value under other conditions. On either side of the actual value, the frequency of readings will decrease, producing an approximately normal distribution curve. So for this exercise, we have done our task to perform a statistical analysis on various samples of different size. So by using the data, we also draw a plot and discuss the findings. The average deviation and standard deviation readings also have been observed. The small size of the total lot and the samples may create a difficulty to conclude in completely invalid way. First, a PC or laptop running Microsoft Windows. Second, composition resistor of same color code. Third, any circuit simulation software. For step 1, 2, 3 and 4, the resistor value was selected at random from the total lot. Its corresponding values were measured and recorded in table 4.1. So our group member has only 3 group members, and each group member need to select the resistor value at random. So there are 3 samples, sample 1, sample 2 and sample 3. For step 5, 6 and 7, for each sample, we need to plot a histogram with a smooth curve to determine whether the curve will give approximate normal distribution or maybe skewed. Step 8, the average deviation and standard deviation of each sample was calculated and their respective values were recorded in table 4.1. And finally, step 9, from average and standard deviation, we have chosen the best, the second best and the worst sample and recorded it in table 4.3. This is table 4.1 sampling table. There are 3 different samples. Sample 1 for Waraziman, sample 2 Umi Hamizah, sample 3 Wan Muhammad Fahad. Next, histogram for each sample, sample 1, sample 2 and sample 3. Table 4.2, average deviation and standard deviation of sample. So there are 3 different values of average deviation and standard deviation for each sample. Table 4.3, rating of average deviation and standard deviation of sample. So the best is sample 1, the second best is sample 2 and the worst is sample number 3. This part will cover number 1, 2 and 3 of activity 2 in exercise 4. So the first one, the difference between average deviation and standard deviation. The average deviation of a data set is an average of all deviation from a set central point, while the standard deviation is a measure of the spread of scores within a set of data. Next, the rating from best to worst had been given for each sample based on the standard deviation and average deviation values. Sample 1 from Waraziman was rated as the best because it has the lowest value for average deviation and standard deviation. Sample 2 from Umi Hamizah was the second best, and sample 3 from Wan Muhammad Farhan is the worst due to the largest value. In overview, the rating given is based on the lowest value, which is the best, to the largest value, which is the worst. In conclusion, based on the observation and findings from the statistical analysis of the exercise, we had acquired the knowledge of sampling techniques to be implemented in future undertakings or experiments, and gained the experience of analysis by analyzing the experimental data. We had successfully conducted the statistical analysis for all the samples collected from each group member by plotting the histogram with smooth curves to determine its distribution and calculating the values of the average deviation and standard deviation. The calculated values were rated from the best to the worst based on the lowest and largest average deviation and standard deviation values.